Hello, my name is Jack Neary. I'm with the National Benchrest Shooters Association. We have a real treat today, part of our tutorial series that we're starting on our NBRSA YouTube channel with different content. I'm very pleased to be with George Kelbly Jr. today. George is widely regarded as the most skilled group target scorer in the United States, or maybe even beyond that. George, how long have you been scoring targets now?
I think a little over 40 years.
So a little bit of experience. What our goal is today is to get maybe some of George's thoughts and techniques, tips and tricks, if you will, areas of he focuses in order to ensure when he is measuring group targets that there is obviously as accurate measurement as possible. George, I guess let's start with equipment. What do you like to use? A Sweeney tool, or do you have a favorite that you've used over the years?
Well, just any digital caliper, and then I custom made the my measuring device, the rest of it.
Okay.
The attachments to it, you know.
Okay. All right. So when you first get a target, obviously finding the caliber or what cartridge someone's shooting, whether it's a 22 PPC, 22 short, or 6 PPC, obviously that's a part of what you need to know. And I know that in previous conversation with you, you were saying that you were using a 22 reticle with a 6 PPC. Is that true?
Yeah, I taught myself over the years to know exactly how. I just use a 22 reticle, and I just know how much order to leave around the reticle.
Okay. All
On
right.
a 6, on a 22, it fills it nicely, but since almost 99, at least 99% of the shooters are shooting the 6,
Right. Yeah, it makes it pretty easy.
Yeah.
George, when you first get a target, what kind of mindset do you have as far as a technique when you're looking at the widest center to center bullet holes and try to identify that? Will you look at articulating your caliper across 2 different points to ensure you're getting the widest portion, or are you just kind of visualizing what you would do with a target?
Well, like on this one, I can just glancing at it quickly, I can see that this length is further than this length.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also, to make it easier, I also start with the target like this, so that this isn't hitting me in the belly and stuff.
Oh, okay, all right. Turning it upside down.
I turn it upside down, and they measure the same either way.
Okay.
And
Now, George, do you use any special lighting or just a well-lit room?
Just a well-lit room.
Okay, all right.
I know some people use stands and have lights and big magnifying glasses, but I find I like this better. I got more room on the table and stuff to do it.
Okay.
And I try to have a nice little chair so I'm not hunched way over.
Right, doing hundreds of targets a day.
Yeah.
Or more,
So,
thousands.
So, like this one, like I say, I can see that this way is longer than this way.
Right.
Just that's a good technique, is to kind of look at a lot of times they're in triangles. See which leg of the triangle is longer.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
to save a little time.
Mm-hmm.
So then I spin the target to where I want it to be,
Okay.
and then I should I go?
Yeah, please.
And then I set on the left-hand most bullet, and then just pull over to the other one,
Okay.
and then, like, if this was closer, then I would, I would go to the other one and
Double check to make sure that.
make sure that it was 20 thousandths smaller than the other one.
Okay, all right. And George, where do you think that most people make their mistake in causing accuracy errors when they are measuring the group? Is it the first set where they're putting down the reticle on the furthest bullet hole, or are they maybe not totally encapsulating the radius of the farthest bullet hole?
It could be the set. It could be, as part of the set, making sure, I don't know if you can see this, but I've got the reticle here and then a line that's lined up with it, that's parallel to the caliper. and you just want to make sure that it's like going through the second hole,
Okay.
through the center.
So
of the
there's a
second
line
hole.
scribe on your custom
Yeah.
caliper or gauge that you make?
I think basically all the calipers have that kind of a line,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all the measuring devices.
Okay.
And you know, just make sure, because then the other thing that I did to kind of minimize any errors there is I put the plunger
Okay.
right in line.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
real close to the reticle.
Okay.
And then, so then you just make sure that it lines up good, because especially on a lot of the other calipers, they have the plunger like way up here or way up here.
Okay.
And
it doesn't pivot?
Not lined up, so
Okay.
if you're not lined up straight, and then you do this and pivot, it's gonna really throw off the measurement.
Okay, I see. All right. Gotcha. George, when you are looking at measuring groups, the smaller groups I would anticipate is where we see most error today. Would you agree with that, or where do you see that most people may be prone to making measurement errors?
Yeah, the smaller the group, the harder it is to figure it out. You know, sometimes if it's so small that it's really hard to figure out, I'll actually go down to the cider, you know, bring it up close, and go down the cider and just get a real good feel of how big the bullet's printing.
I see. All right. Well, that's
You know,
great.
and that's what I do at the beginning of the shoot too. Is like my first target is get reacquainted
Mm-hmm.
with how it's going to center in the bullet.
Right. Right.
Bullet hole. And you know, and like another place for error, and it's really hard to figure it out, is like yesterday we had really bad rain,
Mm-hmm.
and the black marks get washed away, and it's like trying to figure out
Where it starts. Mm-hmm.
And then another hard one is if the edges of the group are inside the bullseye,
Mm-hmm.
it's black on black. It's hard to see
The difference.
the edge.
Okay.
So sometimes I need to, you know, there's always a little round hole in the center of the, you know, through hole in the center of the bullet print.
Okay.
And I'll also sometimes make sure that looks centered too.
Okay.
To try
Gotcha.
and get a better measurement.
Gotcha. Just to recap, so you kind of advocate that it's good always when you get started to maybe look at a bullet hole of that paper, especially in the smaller groups.
Mhm.
Is that correct? And that helps you basically get a gauge of what kind of a bullet hole you're particularly looking at that competitor is using, and that helps you go to make a more accurate measurement on the record target. Is that correct?
Yeah.
George, I know that several years ago, the MBRSA, we had moved to a new target paper, which is a little bit different than the old traditional paper where it was a brown paper stock. And I know that we've had, some people that had concerns that they were originally using the 6mm reticle to measure it. And I remember speaking to you at the Super Shoot a few years ago, where you were telling me that you used the 22. You felt that it centered better and it allowed for more accurate measurements.
Yeah, on the newer paper,
On the
for
newer
sure,
paper.
because it prints smaller than the old paper.
Right. Okay.
And they all print small. It's like a 243, 6mm hole is, even on the old paper, is like, if I remember right, about 239 or
239,
something.
right?
And the newer paper was
236.
235,
Okay.
somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a while since I measured one, so I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
Like I say, I'm looking for the center, so
Mm-hmm.
it almost doesn't matter. On a 30 or something, I'll use a different reticle, or even a 7mm or something. But for the 22 and the 6, I use the same reticle, and it just makes it faster.
Okay.
Some people still want to use the separate reticles, just
Mm-hmm.
because finding the center better maybe for them.
Okay.
But for me, that's just what's worked for me, and it's been proven that it works well.
Right. George, obviously you have maybe a lot of targets that will have small groups where the gun's in tune, making a small bullet hole, and then you do have an out-of-tune rifle where the bullet holes are raggedy on this record part of the target. How do you find, or what's your strategy when you say, wow, this group or this paper is maybe getting torn because that bullet's going through the target with yaw and not punching a hole or cutting a clean hole in the target? Do you try to bear down or pay closer attention when you see that raggedy bullet hole instead of a nice clean hole?
I've not seen a lot. I mean, I've seen keyholes,
Right,
actual
right.
keyholes where they apparently hit a flag or something,
Mhm.
you know, and that one's tough to measure.
Okay.
It's like, what do you measure, you know?
Right.
Because what's the center, you know?
Right.
But the raggedy ones, I still, you know, it's just trying to. That might be where I use you know, if it's shooting badly enough to have a raggedy hole, the bullets are probably far enough apart that you can differentiate them, and then I just try to be centered on it.
Okay, all right.
You know.
Gotcha. Also, George, different times of the day with maybe humidity changes. Typically, summertime, you may see humidity might be lower in the morning, and/or temperature is cooler, certainly. And then in the afternoon, humidity starts to drop. Do you find there is any impact or effect to the target paper for measurement between the morning when humidity might be at a higher point versus lower when it gets warmer out or hot outside?
But measurement-wise, I don't know that I notice a big difference.
Okay.
If I do, the big thing is just it slows you down because handling, you know, more damp paper doesn't slide around.
Would
You know,
get harder to pivot on it.
you know, just harder to work with.
Right.
You know.
If you had someone new that you were training, what would be maybe the top 3 or 4 key items that a target scorer should focus on in order to ensure the most accurate scoring of group targets?
Maybe see how good your repeatability is.
Okay.
Like I do before, you know, get a good feel for how the reticle sits on the on a bullet that's all by itself, say on a sight or target or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, practice and you know, really looking at the group. Spend a couple seconds, you know, just looking at the group and just seeing where you need to go, you know, and even sometimes like sometimes you'll have like a big print that it's really hard to figure out which way to go, so you just got to go all ways. You know?
With the group, you're saying?
Yeah, which way to measure.
Okay.
Because it's just so. And sometimes the triangles are like almost perfect, you know. So
right.
It's like you might have to go all 3 ways around, or you know, it's just you know, be certain that you're measuring the longest distance.
Okay. Certainly, our current target paper with the veneer finish, which works very well in the rain. Hopefully, that's making it a lot easier for you to properly measure, score the target. When you do have rainy conditions or a target that is wet, does that alter your technique at all, or are you just that diligent that you're applying the same processes?
Applying the same processes, they, you know, either type of paper, they're really hard to handle.
Okay.
You know, it really slows us down. You know, this type of paper curls real bad, and because it's so smooth, it really sticks to each other.
I see.
So,
okay.
And the other paper gets like scarily flimsy. You know, like you gotta be more careful that you don't rip it or something.
Sure.
And the other thing, when the older paper is like at this shoot, the 200 yards worth of older paper, you got to be really certain that you got a good push on your plunger, so that it's not sliding.
For the pivot point to make sure
Yeah.
that, okay. Gotcha.
Because if you don't have a good pointy plunger that's in good, the whole system could slide, and then you get too small of a measurement.
I see. Okay. All right. So have a good pointing plunger to anchor the target to, and the caliper for measurement. Also, George, the scribe line you said, would it be helpful for people to practice in order to get the scribe line through that widest part of the target when they're measuring? Do you find that can lead to measurement error if they're not really articulating that across that widest part, especially in that pivot when they're doing that?
Yeah, just make sure you're lining up good,
Okay.
And that's, it's like, that's why, depending on the target, I'm going like this, so that I'm only moving this a few degrees.
Okay.
I'm only placing it a few degrees off. If I have to go more than a few degrees, I move, pivot the target so that they line up.
Gotcha. All right, so if I'm understanding you right, you're using a 22 reticle for 6mm bullet holes, is that correct?
And 22.
And 22, all right. What happens if you were measuring a 30 caliber hole or 6.5 for that matter?
A 30, I have a separate reticle for the 30.
Okay.
I actually have a 17 and a 7.
Okay.
Because I made this back when some people were still shooting those two.
Right.
A few people.
Right.
But the 6.5, I would probably have to go down to the bottom and just see how much gray I need to leave around the reticle of the 22.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. And 30, what would you use a 30 caliber reticle if you had a Sweeney device, a commercial Sweeney measurement device, or would you use a smaller reticle for a 30 caliber hole?
A 30.
So a stock 30 type of reticle?
Yeah. And like I say, I have a 30 on here.
Okay.
And because it's too hard to guess that much black around it.
I see. And the 22 just allows you to really get a much more accurate first position.
Well, I mainly use the 22 just because I'm not having to switch between a 6 and a 22.
Okay. All right.
I'm just 99% of the time I'm just using that one reticle.
Right.
And like I say, I taught myself how to measure the two different size groups, two different size bullets with that one reticle.
Okay.
And if you have a 6 and you're comfortable with the 6, use the 6.
Right. Okay. All right. Great. Well, this has been great. We certainly appreciate your time today, George. We're here at the Holton Gun and Bow Club at the 2021 NBRSA Group Nationals, and thank you for your time. I know that'll help people at least give them some ideas of some different technique. I know I learned something whereby you're looking at the individual bullet hole to get a feel for what the bullet hole by itself, size-wise, and how that would affect the measurement. So appreciate your time, George, and wish you a safe trip home. We have one more day to shoot tomorrow, and only a couple hundred more targets, or a few thousand more targets. All right. This is Jack Neary from the National Benchrest Shooters Association. Thanks for tuning in, and look for more tutorial content on our NBRSA YouTube channel. Thank you.